Hello, Patriots, praying citizens, and truth seekers. Today's Thursday, February 21st. There's quite a bit in the news, lots to go through with the Q posts. We'll be looking at GOP sellouts, journalism's bravest finally asking some questions about Q. We'll look at the cryptic post that Q gave us a while back about children and chemicals and disease. We'll be also looking at Spygate, the Clinton donor web, the Epstein case, Jussie Smollett, the meme war, attacks in North Carolina on the Republican Party, California border information, and more. So let's start with this. New Q, being a Clinton donor really pays off. And here's our star of the show on the left, Jeffrey Epstein. Here's his temple to Moloch on Epstein Island, and Bill and Hillary, who made it all possible. So let's start with 2840. This is Sebastian Gorka's tweet about Ann Coulter. He says, Ann Coulter is now a never-Trump conservative. And someone posted it and said, that's funny. Q responded, Mitt Romney, Mitt Romney, Mitt Romney. Wire transfers are a convenient way of transferring money. Q. Then he posted this Ann Coulter tweet that says, I feel so sorry for Mitt Romney, but sorrier for the country that will never have him as president. That was November 7th of 2012. And Q says, happy hunting. So you knew that it was bound to be lots of information to be found on Ann Coulter. So far, these two tweets summarize it. So you have on the left, I feel sorry for Mitt Romney, but sorrier for the country that will never have him as president, versus February 17th, 2018, poor Utah Republicans, if only they had a carpetbagging, flip-flopping, Trump-bashing, clueless twit of a Senate candidate. Oh, wait. And of course, she's referring to Mitt Romney. Q asks, hypocrite, history of flip-flopping. What made her flop this time? Wire transfers are an effective way at swaying opinions. I guess she didn't get any more money. Shills come in many forms. Race to build a base, followers to build worth, to draw funds. Common these days? Q. The basis of the Q comments are that Ann Coulter had for weeks been bashing Trump for what she says was him caving to Democrats over his demands for additional funding to construct a wall along the southern border, even calling him the biggest wimp ever to serve as President of the United States. On Friday, the bickering made its way to a nationally televised news conference where Trump announced his plans to use executive powers to declare a national emergency to free up billions in funds for the proposed wall. And then the president was asked about her. He says, Ann Coulter, I don't know her. I hardly know her. I haven't spoken to her in way over a year, but the press loves saying Ann Coulter. Probably if I did speak to her, she would be very nice, Trump said, adding that she is off the reservation. According to the Washington Examiner, following Trump's speech, Ann Coulter wrote, it's the nicest thing he could say about me, completely absolving me of responsibility for his total capitulation on immigration, the issue that put him in the White House. 2843, Q says, but you knew that already. He's referring to a statement by John Solomon, an investigative reporter who writes for The Hill, and he said the end is near and there will be no charges against the president, and that is in regards to the Mueller investigation. Q says, hence why Adam Schiff, the Southern District of New York, and Maxine Waters are attempting to keep the insurance scheme ongoing post-Mueller. Fear. The fun begins directly after. We'll make the Super Bowl look like a puppy show. And then we have this next one, which basically says, we see you in the skiff, Barack Hussein Obama. Be ready for the Qs. Post 2844, a link to this tweet by Julian's Rum. And let me go there first. So this is a Q post from January 29th of 2018. Narrative shift, nation on alert, firing Rod Rosenstein equals block Mueller, firing Rosenstein equals setup to firing Mueller, firing Rosenstein equals red line. What was the Senate confirmation vote regarding Rod Rosenstein? Why did RR beg Ryan to block the FISA memo from congressional review / further advancement? Real-time, 7 congressional members plus 3 senators plus 2 former senior officials at the Obama administration plus 4 outside contractors, and then in brackets, no classification or no, they don't have permission to be there, top security level clearance, so obviously they shouldn't have been in there, at the SCIF in the DC Capitol. Top security clearance is mandatory for admission. How's that possible? We see you, Q. And then Paul Sperry tweeted on the 20th of February, breaking, McCabe said Rosenstein tried to bounce GOP Representative Devin Nunes, head of the House Intel Committee, from the Capitol basement SCIF when he and McCabe briefed the Gang of Eight about opening an espionage and obstruction investigation on Trump in May of 2017. The Gang of Eight represents 8 senior members, congressmen from both sides, and these are the people that look into intelligence matters. And so there was a briefing, and they tried to keep Devin Nunes from getting in. So back to the Q post. What is the process to enter a SCIF? What security level must exist in order to gain entry? Can non-security level persons be invited to participate? Do logs exist for each designated meeting? Do logs record time in and out and who went in and out? Ability to enter a range without paper trail? And then real-time, January 29th, 2018, and then IDEN, so identification, not for anons. IDEN, January 29th, 2018, and run back 1-2, not for anons. SCIF logs can be very revealing. Hussein's United States Secret Service codename Renegade. Define renegade. A noun, a person who deserts and betrays an organization, country, or set of principles. The synonyms are traitor, defector, deserter, turncoat, betrayer. Signed, Q. The next post, 2845. Elizabeth Coe from Tampa Bay Times here, doing on a balanced story on Q for this Sunday's paper. Wanted your input on the biggest thing that happened this week. Will be a fair article. Been following this board somewhat, so save the flaming comments and give honest input. Signed, EK. So this was on the HN board. So Elizabeth Coe is from Tallahassee, or lives in Tallahassee, Florida. She reports for the Miami Herald and the Tampa Bay Times. And I looked at some of her articles. I didn't see terrible reporting. I saw something that was, about what you'd expect on the new governor, Ron DeSantis. And anyway, so she's asking for the biggest thing that happened this week. We'll see. Then Q posted this, and this is a tweet from Ed Poole. This is from the UK. I canvassed for months with a hernia to get Joan Ryan Enfield elected as a Labour MP, Member of Parliament, under this leadership and this manifesto. If she is no longer Labour, she should trigger a by-election and let Enfield residents decide. And then there's a response underneath from John McDonnell, MP, and he just puts a giant Q. So here's a picture of him, John McDonnell, Labour MP for Hayes and Harlington, and Shadow Chancellor. Join the Labour Party here. And Q responds, we are the news now worldwide. 2846. This is from the CBS television series FBI Season 1, Episode 13, called Partners in Crime. And this guy says, Q, who the hell's Q? This was from a tweet on Judah's Trumpets. Q responds, be ready for the Q, Anons. In other words, the question, who is Q? Eyes on, increasing, plus each day. You are the news now. Handle with care, Q. 2847 is a post from April 9th of 2018. Did Anons ever figure out what Q meant with the baby on floor, hands in mouth, the start? Was this the Syria false flag? Q responds, finally, chemicals, learn our comms. And then he reposts that today and he said, he links to a Science News article, you have more than you know, 5 for 5, question mark, Q. So this is going to make you sick. My husband and I have a granddaughter who is here visiting us often, and we have vinyl floors. And this says, why kids may be at risk from vinyl floors and fire-resistant couches. Kids who live in homes with all vinyl flooring or living room couches that contain flame retardants have a much higher concentration of chemicals called semi-volatile organic compounds in their blood and urine than other children. Researchers reported those results February 17th at the annual meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The researchers found semi-volatile organic compounds in vinyl flooring. And when they measured the children's urine, they found an average of 240 nanograms of the plasticizer benzyl butyl phthalate per milliliter, versus 12 nanograms per milliliter for those children living in non-vinyl floor homes. Children with the highest exposure showed 20 to 40% of the reference dose. That is the highest daily dose that the U.S. EPA considers safe to ingest without negative consequences over your lifetime. This particular compound causes respiratory and reproductive disorders, ADHD, autism, and cancer. For a long time, there's been a tacit assumption among researchers that home furnishings don't release these compounds quickly enough for them to significantly accumulate in residents' bodies, but the new findings undercut that assumption. All right, moving on. I just wanted to bring out this. This was not in a Q post, but this was on Zero Hedge. The FBI official named Tricia Anderson, who was the number 2 lawyer at the FBI's General Counsel's office, admits to infiltrating the Trump campaign, but she says it's not spying. So this was part of that crossfire hurricane featuring this guy, Stephen Halper, who's been on the payroll of the federal government for many administrations. He was paid $400,000 by the Obama administration to around the time that this happened to participate in this crossfire hurricane. And he was the one who helped net George Papadopoulos and trap him in a conversation trying to suggest that they had dirt on Hillary Clinton. And there are several ways to read the story, but anyway, the important thing, according to this from Zero Hedge, is that Tricia Anderson said, to my knowledge, the FBI did not place anybody within a campaign, but rather relied upon its network of sources, some of whom already had campaign contacts, including the source that has been discussed in the media at some length beyond Christopher Steele. Now, I want to also link it to this. Julie Bishop, who was the Australian foreign minister, resigned on the 21st. She blamed misogyny, in other words, that she was not being taken seriously as a female. She believed her male colleagues relied significantly on her ministerial leadership but would never make her the leader. They valued the fact one of their leadership group was a woman but would not progress her beyond deputy liberal leader. Well, who is Julie Bishop? Well, here she is with Hillary Clinton, and this tweet was from May of 2018. Welcome back to Australia, Hillary. A good discussion in Sydney about the Australian-U.S. friendship, foreign affairs, and empowering women. And also giving us money. Under Bishop, now this is in 2014, she said, since 2006, Australia has contributed $88 million to the Clinton Health Access Initiative and its sister organization, the Clinton Foundation. Under Prime Minister Julia Gillard, they gave $300 million to the Clinton-affiliated Global Partnership for Education. Documents released in July by Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade provided a different number, 11 separate grants to the Clinton Foundation and a China Clinton Foundation that totaled almost $71 million. Speaking of donors to the Clinton Foundation, here's the star of the show, Jeffrey Epstein. So what happened today was a judge in a Florida courtroom ruled that federal prosecutors broke the law in the Jeffrey Epstein case. What happened was the prosecutors were sending the indictment back and forth to Epstein's lawyers to let them make changes to this indictment. Q posted 2848, equal justice under the law or a rigged system. Being a Clinton donor really pays off. So Jeffrey Epstein had hundreds upon hundreds of gals that he engaged in kitty cuddling with, and these girls were aged 13 to 16. His lawyers, including Alan Dershowitz, Roy Black, Jay Lefkowitz, Kenneth Starr, Jack Goldberg, and Gerald Lefcourt, were able to secure this great deal for him because they pressured the U.S. attorney to drop the investigation. And who was the U.S. attorney? Barry Kirchner is the Palm Beach State's attorney, and he only charged this guy with a misdemeanor. And when he was put in jail for part of the day, but he spent 12 hours a day at his office. And then he got probation. So they say this is a plea deal sealed to hide the details. Now, also involved in this thing is a guy named Alexander Acosta, who is our current labor secretary under President Trump. So here's the nuts and bolts of it. A judge ruled Thursday that federal prosecutors, among them U.S. Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta, broke federal law when they signed a plea agreement with a wealthy, politically connected Jeffrey Dahmer. Thank God he didn't do that. Jeffrey Epstein. And concealed it from more than 30 of his victims. In a 33-page opinion, U.S. District Judge Kenneth Mara said the evidence he reviewed showed that Epstein had been operating an international operation, and not just from Florida, but overseas, and that violated federal law. Then I found this on Wikipedia. It said on January 29th of 2019, Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz asked the Senate to take up legislation already passed by the House that would authorize him to investigate alleged prosecutorial misconduct by Alexander Acosta. 2 days later, the Justice Department's Office of Professional Responsibility notified Senator Ben Sasse that it had opened an investigation into Epstein's prosecution. Here's the thing. Alexander Acosta operated under the authority of the FBI's director, who at the time was none other than Robert Mueller. So I'm not sure how dirty Acosta is. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but obviously Jeffrey Epstein got a really sweet deal. What happened was that prosecutors misled Epstein's victims after negotiating the plea agreement by telling them to be patient while the investigation proceeded and leading them to believe that federal prosecution was still a possibility. So Mara stopped short of invalidating the agreement but asked prosecutors and victims' lawyers to recommend in 15 days how to move forward. So Acosta was then the U.S. attorney in Miami, and Again, the FBI director at the time was Robert Mueller, and this was an FBI operation. He helped negotiate a non-prosecution agreement that gave Epstein and his co-conspirators immunity from federal prosecution. Epstein lived in this Palm Beach mansion. He was allowed to quietly plead guilty in state court to 2 charges of securing sex for hire, and he served just 13 months. His accomplices, some of whom have never been identified, were never charged. None of his victims, these gals who are now all grown up, were told about this deal until it was too late for them to appear at his sentencing and possibly reject the deal. Again, how sweet it is to be a donor to the Clintons. 2849, hate hoax by Smollett. False flag designed to pass anti-lynching law gets wall-to-wall fake news coverage. Real hate, real violence, and fascism carried out by members of Antifa gets 0 coverage. Reconcile. 1 = 1? When will the FBI conclude their investigation into Antifa? What happens if the phone records of Smollett leak? Who did he talk to multiple times prior to turning himself in? Political forces at work? Enemy of the people. Q. So this was the headline on Drudge today. It's a picture of Smollett, liar, felony charge, hate hoax crime, plot turns against Empire Star. Zero Hedge reported that Smollett staged the hoax because $1.17 million salary for being on Empire wasn't enough. And now we have the fake news media and politicians coming out and saying, poor Jussie, this was just a cry for help. So Q links us to a Fox News article on hate crime hoaxes, and he says, notice a trend by liberals and Ds. Fake, fake, fake. They will stop at nothing to regain power. Hashtag Wake Up America Q. So let's look at these different hoaxes. We have Kissy Ram, 19, pleading guilty in January 2019 for lying about a racist note she originally claimed had been shoved under her dorm room door in Des Moines, Iowa, at Drake University. Adwoa Lewis, 19, told a New York police officer that 4 teens confronted her, yelled Trump 2016, and told her she didn't belong here. The next day, she told police the tire of her car had been slashed and a note left behind that read, go home. There was no confrontation, and she wrote the note herself, a big hoax. Dontarius Williams posted photos on social media and claimed his vehicle had been covered with racial slurs. Go home, date your own kind, and die. He wrote them himself. Muslim female Yasmin Sawaid reported that 3 men taunted her aboard a New York City subway train, yelling Donald Trump and calling her a terrorist. She claimed one of the men tried to remove her hijab. She invented the story to escape being out past curfew. Georgia Nathaniel Stang, 26, of Bloomington, Indiana, pleaded guilty to institutional criminal mischief in April 2018 after he admitted to vandalizing the church he worked at as an organist with Heil Hitler, a swastika, and a gay slur. Why? He was disappointed in Trump's election. Azhar Hussain, a former assistant professor of aviation technology at Indian State University, was arrested in April 2017. I'm thinking that's Indiana State, sorry for the error, for creating and sending emails campus-wide containing anti-Muslim messages and threats a month before. He wanted sympathy, and this is an old guy. Jalen Mitchell confessed to submitting multiple false reports to campus police after claiming that he found a note containing racist and homophobic language taped to the back door of his university-owned residence. It was he who did it because he wanted attention. And then there's this. Some of you know Terrence Williams. He's a conservative comedian. He's on Twitter a lot. And he tweeted this on February 19th. Kamala Harris was lost for words when asked about her crazy nephew, Jussie Smollett. She is waiting on the facts to unfold. I must be tripping. I thought they didn't wait on facts. When did they start doing that? Can y'all recall a time when they waited? Okay, now, That was a few days ago. And then there's this. He was in an accident. This is the Lyft car that he was in. That's like Uber. And he was in Maryland on his way to Washington, D.C., to the White House. And they got in a horrible accident. He says, update, I want to thank everyone for all the love and support. Everything happened so fast, and I thought it was the end, so I'm thankful to be alive. My neck and back out of commission, so I can't eat anything. Still in ER trauma care, waiting to be admitted to a room. Love y'all. Okay, now, I'm not saying that him saying that Kamala Harris is Jussie Smollett's aunt is a lie. I mean, is the cause. I don't know that it's the truth. It's what he says, but he said that, and then this happened. Are there any coincidences? Moving on. This is post 2851. According to the mainstream media, these people on the left, these kids with their Q t-shirts, had a Trump rally, are the fringe, and the normal people are goth, and this lady has royal blue hair, and there's a Trump wearing a diaper balloon, and these are the normal people according to the mainstream media, and they've got the resist signs, Black Lives Matter. Q says, memes, and more memes. Why are memes so important, Q? And audience, why? Because they can't be followed by algorithms. Very good. So we keep those memes coming. Then he links to this Twitter, hashtag truth, hashtag facts matter. And we have a couple more memes. So we've got what the media wants you to believe is happening. We have a lunch counter with a black man who is supposedly a Democrat and a bunch of MAGA-wearing, cap-wearing Republicans staring him down. That's what the media wants us to believe. And then what's really happening is the black guy's wearing a MAGA hat and the Democrats, a bunch of white Democrats, staring the guy down. 2853, hashtag we stand together, hashtag united not divided, hashtag where we go one, we go all, Q. And this is a bunch of people praying at some sort of outdoor event. This lady's t-shirt says Trump and something are not racist. Blacks for Trump, this under this guy's arm. And this is a mixed crowd of people wearing MAGA hats, holding hands, praying with these white and black Americans praying together. So that's reality, not the other. Now I want to just stray a little bit from Q and talk about the Trump administration is exploring every legal option to reclaim $2.5 billion in federal funds provided to California for the failed bullet train. Now, Q links to this article, The Top 4 Reasons California is Unsustainable by Thomas Del Beccaro on April 19th of 2018. He says California is a place unlike any other on the globe. It boasts perhaps the greatest natural resources of any state, along with shining high-tech industries. However, like many good economic stories, government policies threaten its future. Indeed, its government has made California unsustainable. He names 4 areas. At the bottom, California's infrastructure deficit. The needs have been ignored for the water system, the roads, the bridges, the dams, and the schools. In 2017, Governor Jerry Brown estimated that they needed $187 billion to fix everything, but the Bay Area Council said up to $737 billion is needed, and possibly as much as $765 billion in infrastructure repairs. That's a bunch of money. Number 3, government debt. In 2017, the state and local governments owed $1.3 trillion, or another estimate said $2.3 trillion, and there is over $1 trillion in pension liability alone. Number 2, taxes and regulations. The most regulated state in the U.S. is California, and possibly it's worldwide the most regulated place. And it has the highest tax rates. Top income tax rate is 13.3%, plus it's got the 10th highest sales tax. And number 1 is the problem of the government itself. whether it's local or state. In debt, huge budgets paid for with debt financing, moving farther left with each election, and most of the lawsuits filed against the Trump administration come from California, and they're used for political capital, not policy benefits. Then Q adds, they know what's best for our country. Pelosi, California rep since 1987. Maxine Waters has been a representative since 1991. Adam Schiff, a rep since 2001. Dianne Feinstein has been California rep since 1992. Harris and Ted Lieu, lead by example. California estimated $2 trillion in debt. Homelessness, population on the rise. Highest tax rates in the country. Undocumented immigrants in California versus the nation. Uncontrollable state government spending. If you can't fix your own home state, what makes you think you can fix the country, Kamala Harris? If you are living in one of the other 49 states, you should learn from the lesson that's California. And this is a quote from that article. If you're living in California, there's always the lesson of how Michigan came to be governed by a more centrist government. Of course, that came after the failure of the prior government. For now, however, for all its concerns for sustainable foods and products, California is on a high-speed rail to unsustainability. Hashtag facts matter, Q. 2855 is a link to a Reuters article. Welcome to the Democrat Party. They will stop at nothing to regain power. Time to adopt voter ID law, ? Well, let's see. Okay, this is a heck of a story. It's very confusing. It could be one of those reality shows just trying to explain it. So you've got a House seat race. You have Mark Harris, who won by 905 votes. He's the Republican, and the race still hasn't been certified. He's been calling for officials to call the election in his favor, and then on Thursday, he reversed himself. This is after the Elections Board listened to 4 days of testimony about an absentee ballot scheme. A few minutes after Harris's reversal, the board called for new elections. So Harris had spent the morning answering questions about his relationship with this guy named McCrae Dowless. And he was someone that was working for Harris's campaign. But his attorney stopped the queries after Harris repeatedly denied telling anyone that emails between his son John and him would not be part of the evidence. When Harris returned after a nearly 2-hour break, he admitted that testimony was incorrect. Okay, so Mark Harris requested a new vote, telling the panel that evidence of possible ballot fraud had undermined confidence in the election. All right, so there's some things that happened underneath. So Harris led the Democrat Dan McCready by 905 votes on November 6th. Election officials had refused to certify him as the winner due to allegations of irregularities in the vote. It was unclear whether Harris would run in the new race. Listen to this, guys. He told the board he was recovering from an infection that led to sepsis and 2 strokes, and he was not prepared for the rigors of the hearing. Let's go back to the Q post, where he says, welcome to the Democrat Party. They will stop at nothing to regain power. So what do you think happened? Residents of at least 2 counties in the district said Leslie McCrae Dowless and his paid workers collected incomplete absentee ballots and in some instances falsely signed as witnesses and filled in votes for contests left blank, according to testimony at the hearing. Harris, this is the Republican, Harris campaign officials said they did not pay Dowless to do anything illegal, and Dowless maintained his innocence. I would like to know what really went on there. And I would like to know if this poor guy, Mark Harris, that was a real attack of sepsis or somebody did something. Now, this is from the White House. Border apprehensions jump 84%, 606,000 expected this year. January saw a surprising surge of 22,000 more apprehensions of illegal immigrants at the southwest border crossings over January 2018. And that is really good news because that means that they're catching them and they're not getting in as easily, although there's a long way to go. Moving right along, Donald Trump, Islamic State bride not allowed back to the United States. So here's this woman. Her name is Hoda Muthanna. She left Alabama in 2014 to join ISIS as a bride to an ISIS fighter. She's now 24. Let me just stop here and say something. Her dad is a diplomat, and she was born in this country to a diplomat father, which they're not normally made American citizens unless they fill out paperwork and they petition to become U.S. citizens. They're still citizens of wherever their parents are from. But after this lovely lady, Hoda, was captured in Syria, she told The Guardian in the UK that she wanted to return to America. Okay, and Donald Trump responds, I have instructed Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and he fully agrees not to allow Hoda back into the country. And I say, thank you, Mr. President. I believe she should be forgiven, but not repatriated. Okay, guys, what a lot of stuff going on. And I felt a real need to have some peace from the Lord today because this stuff just makes you want to scream sometimes. And I want to lift up Mark Harris, first of all, Father, and just ask you to heal him from whatever the effects of the stroke and the sepsis, and just, Father, give him what he needs to make it through the day and to heal completely. I mean, peace of mind for him has got to be number one, and lead him in his decisions. Father, I also pray for Terrence Williams, and I don't know if the Lyft driver was hurt, but I pray for any who were hurt in that accident. I ask you for swift healing, and that he would have another chance to go to the White House. Father, I just pray for everyone who puts their neck on the line when they stand up for the president, when they stand up for the truth. We really do have targets on our backs, Father, and Jesus said that we would be the targets of tribulation, and we would suffer. And so, Father, I just pray that everyone who is suffering right now for the cause of Christ, wherever they are on earth, that you would comfort them, you would give them your peace. Isaiah 26:3, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you, Father, because he trusts in you. 2 Corinthians 13:1, finally, brethren, farewell, be perfect, which just means complete in your mind about who you are in Christ. Be of good comfort, be of one mind, live in peace, and the God of love and peace shall be with you. So, Father, we thank you that Jesus promised never to leave us or forsake us. And there are days when it feels difficult, but we can rejoice because our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and we have so many amazing and wonderful things waiting for us. Father, help us to not look at what our surroundings are, at what the mainstream media is throwing at us, and at the hopelessness that comes from the pit of hell. Thank you for the hope that we have in Jesus. That is a hope that does not disappoint. Thank you all so much. I pray you have a great rest of your week and weekend, and I will see you next time.